Thank you. I just want to tell you, stay away from him because he's really hard to say no to. So Tom asked me to do this about 6 months ago, so I've had this on my mind and in my heart for a long time. So it's kind of good to get it out now. But I call this my God moments, and I chose this title because there are moments in our lives that profoundly affect us and bring home the truth of God's presence in our life. Those times when something happens that makes you wonder, how can anyone think that there is not a God? Because this would not have happened to me if I didn't believe, I don't think. Last Sunday, when Father Brown was giving his homily, I had to chuckle because he brought up the Baltimore Catechism. You know, any of those of you who are in like my age group, that was our Bible for religion class. And the funny thing was, I had thought about that Baltimore Catechism while I was preparing this talk. And my first thing I always thought, my question was, where is God? You know, that was one of the first basic questions, I think, in the first chapter of the Baltimore Catechism. And the answer was pretty basic: God is everywhere. And so I think that's what we need to always remember, is that God is everywhere in our lives. It doesn't matter what you're doing, where you are, He is there with you. So that's kind of where I came from with my God moments. Some background on me: I grew up here in Fargo in this parish. I'm the second of 7 children. My dad was a lifelong Catholic. My mom was a convert, but both had a really deep faith in God. And our home life was kind of based on that all the time. They were great examples to us of giving back to God and thanksgiving for the gifts He gave us. They were very active here in the parish. They were active in the diocese. They were active in the Catholic schools as we were growing up. And so they gave us a good base, you know, or me a good base anyway. I attended school here at St. Anthony's from grades 1 through 8, and then at Shanley, 9 through 12. Growing up, we prayed the rosary together as a family. I often laugh because we're praying together, but we're all kneeling up against the furniture, so our backs are all to each other. But we did pray the rosary together as a family often. Went to Mass during Lent every day, Mass on Sundays. One of my most memories, and I think probably one of my first God moments, is my mom and dad every year did a Jesus birthday party for the neighborhood. So we baked for weeks before this happened, and then all the kids from the neighborhood came. We sang carols, we had Kool-Aid and cookies. We had a Jesus birthday cake with a blue candle. Anybody from St. Anthony's will remember Mrs. Hilber and her blue candle. She came around at Christmas time every year to distribute blue candles and encouraged us to do Jesus birthday parties. So my mom kind of took that on. And then my dad would always read the Christmas story from the Bible. So those are really good memories for me, and I think they were kind of a first God moment to really realize that, yeah, Christ is with us all the time, and the baby Jesus is important. And so He gave us the true meaning of the birth of Jesus and the true meaning of what Christmas is. My Catholic education also cemented my belief in God's presence in my life. I always think the school masses, particularly at Shanley, were very memorable for me. I always felt really good about attending Mass there. And that's where I met my husband. I was a sophomore in high school, and he, you know, started dating me. I'd known him. He was a St. Anthony member too, so I'd known him, but I really didn't know him. We started dating, and then evidently I said something to somebody that he had told me that he didn't think should be passed on. Anybody who knows me knows I kind of have a propensity for maybe doing that sometimes. So he was going to be done with me. It's like, yeah, you can't do that. I'm not going to date you anymore. I apologized. He decided, okay, well, we'll stick it out. We stuck it out for 42 years, or actually longer than that, because we dated for 5 before we were married. So, you know, for 47 years we were together after that incident happened. So that was another God moment for me, because he certainly was a blessing in my life. Over the years, there's been many experiences for me that have kind of affirmed God's presence, his protection. We moved back to Fargo in 1986 when my husband took a job at Shanley, which to me is another God moment because a couple years before that, he was thinking of taking another job in another town, and I just said, yeah, it's just not the good time to do this yet. 2 years later, this job at Shanley came open, and that was certainly one of his ambitions to want to do that. We were able to move back to Fargo, be closer to our families, and it was a good experience for us and our children. So again, kind of God working with you. It's just like, yeah, this isn't the time for you to do that. Just hold on. Something else will come up. I was working in Crookston at the time as the director of the dietary department. Couldn't find a job here in Fargo, so I drove for 2.5 years. I commuted from Fargo to Crookston every day. Since needless to say, the driving conditions were not always the best. I always felt I got to be there because it's not their fault that I'm living 70 miles away, so I needed to be at work. There were days I probably shouldn't have been driving, but I might have left Fargo. It was nice. Got about halfway. I don't know how many of you drive Highway 75 to Crookston, but you get by Shelley and you go on that curve, and it can be like another world. Well, this one particular morning I was driving. It was blizzarding, could hardly see, and I just got the feeling, I think I'm not on the road anymore. So I stopped and checked. Sure enough, I was on the other shoulder of the road across the highway. Got myself reoriented, got back on the highway. I don't think I had gone 10 feet, and here came a semi in the other direction. I would not have seen that car, that truck. To me, that's a God moment. God was protecting me. He decided I had to be around for a longer time than that. So, and there were other times on the road that I had a time when I came up on a foggy morning to a highway sign, had fallen down. I couldn't see it till I was right on top of it. Another time I ran over a deer it was laying in the highway. I only hit the legs, but it would have taken me right out. I had this little Firebird, and it was a small car. And so, just all those things to me, I was protected. God was there with me. Those are some of my God moments. And, I knew my life had been saved that day. Like I said, I felt God needed me for something more, and I'm not sure what it is, but I have faith that it is something, and someday it'll come to me. Another God moment, my mom passed away in June of 2000, and prior to that, we talked about we have a history of colon cancer in our family, and so we always talked about, you need to get this colonoscopy, you need to do it. And so I finally when I went to my doctor that fall, I said, you know what, just make that appointment for me, because I know I'm the queen of procrastination. I would have put it off for another year or so, because I really wasn't looking forward to doing it. So I did it, had it done, woke up from that colonoscopy, and the doctor said, you have a growth in your colon and you need to have surgery to have it taken out. It was precancerous, so I didn't have cancer, but he said it had been there 2 years. If you'd waited 2 more years, which I would have been 50, pretty common time to do that, I would have had cancer. So again, God was protecting me. There was a reason, and that was that urging I felt like it was my mom telling me, you need to do this, but so she was speaking to me through God, and that was another God moment. I was so happy and thankful that I caught that in time and did not have that terrible disease. When my youngest daughter turned 40, she decided she should schedule a mammogram, just because she thought, I should have a baseline for this. Well, lo and behold, they found a shadow, and it turned out to be cancer. Caught it very early, it was very small. She, really didn't need a lot of treatment. But again, another God moment in your life, because she could have how many of us put those things off? So again, something was speaking to her that you need to do this. And I don't know, I'm sure a lot of you, or some of you, have knew my husband. He taught social studies for 43 years, but he taught at Shanley starting in 1986. And he always had a really great love for the Constitution. I mean, he thought it was important for his kids to learn about it, his students. So one summer he had an opportunity, he got a grant to go to an institute in Colorado on the Constitution. And one of the discussion groups, as we were talking when he came home, one of the discussion groups they had during that time was about they were talking about alcohol and minors and things like that, but one of the instructors or discussion leaders said, well, the Catholic Church serves alcohol to minors all the time. And he turned and looked at him and he said, no, that's not wine. He said, that's the blood of Christ. And that kind of hit me when he told me that, and it's like, yes, it really is the true presence, and it's not wine that we're drinking. And, kind of shut down some of the other group and said, good answer, good. But at the same time, it was like that was a true belief for him. And it helped me to really grab that theory too. When my husband passed away from a major heart attack in January of 2015, we'd been married for 41 years. And for at least 25 of those years, he would tell me all the time, well, I'm not going to live to retire. I'm going to die young. I'd get so mad at him. The kids would get so mad at him because it's like, geez, Dad, why do you say that? But he really, truly believed it. He said, that's fine. I'm good with that. He said, I've had a really good life. I have no regrets. I'm ready to go to God anytime he takes me. But now when I think back on that, I think, that was God talking to me through him too. It was preparing me. And so I think that, that was kind of, God helping me to be able to cope with that. I always thought it was pretty gloom and doom, but he really firmly believed it, and it happened. He was 64 years old. So, and he didn't retire. He taught the day before it happened. So, two significant events, I call them miracles, that occurred during the time he was in the hospital, or right after he had the heart attack. When the paramedic was treating him at our house, he finally looked at me and he said, I need to call this in. Well, I was an EMT for a while. I knew what that meant. He was going to call the doctor and call the code right at my house. And he turned and he looked at the monitor and said, oh, nope. He said, shock him again. So they shocked him. They got a pulse. They took him in, did all the protocols. To me, that was miracle number one. And I think it was God's way of helping us to prepare for what would finally happen. But it gave us some time. About 2 days into into his hospitalization, he started bloating. His abdomen was distended, and the doctor said, I think his organs are shutting down. We're probably going to have to do something. And I thought, oh my gosh, that can't happen. He would probably wake up and tell me, don't you do this to me. But so my sister Julie, who was there with us and the kids, she said, what do we need to do? What do we need to pray for? So she put her hands on his abdomen. She prayed for things to be, to go back to what they should be. The doctor came in that night and said, nope, everything's good. To me, that was miracle number two, because it didn't happen. And the doctor felt that it really was going to. So, we had some good things. And during that time he was in the hospital, my kids reached out on, Facebook, kind of updating everyone. The Catholic schools, they were in Washington at the time for the Walk of Life, so they prayed rosaries for him and things. But that week gave everyone, my family and the Shanley family, his colleagues, the students, to have an opportunity to deal with and come to terms with the fact that he probably wasn't coming back to us. And so many people came in. I said that ICU nurses and staff were probably ready to pull their hair out with us, because there would be like 10 people in the room talking, telling stories, laughing, telling things that he would do. There were people coming in and out all the time. But it was such a healing process. And again, to me, that's a God moment. Those are times when you know that God is there. I took a moment in the bathroom, and that's when I cried. I just kind of sobbed. I knew it was going to, but after that, I just thought, okay, I'm okay. God's with me. I'm okay. I'm gonna do this, with a lot of support from friends and family. But we wouldn't have made it through. I wouldn't have made it through that time and the 9 years since then if it hadn't been for God. So to me, that's kind of my faith journey. I've met a lot of people. My sister did a prayer group, or was always a leader of a prayer group that once I retired and had more time, I went to those. And oh my gosh, that was just so fulfilling for me to be with people who had such a deep faith and to hear their stories. And it's kind of been my faith journey. So I think I had a good background. I had a good start with my family, but being part of St. Anthony's for all these years and just being part of a community all the time has really helped. So my final thing is God is always there for me, giving messages and affirmations. We may not always recognize his voice. We may not think, oh, that's God talking to us. Maybe you think, oh, something is just telling me. Listen to that voice. If something's telling you that you shouldn't do something, or maybe you should do something, listen, because I think that's God talking to you, trying to guide you in the right path, the thing that would be the best for you. So I hope my stories have helped you maybe to deepen your faith or to think about those things and your awareness of God's presence in your life at all times. And that's my story. So thank you all for coming.